Our next burning question surrounding the Buffalo Sabres. The blue line is good. Just how good is it? That coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
Your Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody, and welcome into today's edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast here on this Saturday morning. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to watch the show, you could do that. Head over to our YouTube channel, hit the like and subscribe button if you would, and if you enjoy the show there. And if you would like to get involved with the show, you got a comment or you've got a question that you want read aloud, you could do that over on our text club. And to do that is over at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres. That at least is the place to sign up. And then you can text just through your messages app on your phone from there on out. So a lot to get to on today's show. We're going to be talking about the defense core, the blue line, 12 burning questions about the Buffalo Sabres heading into this season. If you missed our two previous episodes on this little series we're doing here, one on the goaltending that we just did, and then also on Josh Norris, who's now wearing number 9, and Benson to number 6. Those two episodes you can find in the feed wherever you may be listening. Sneaky Joe DiBiase here on a Saturday. We're one day before Buffalo Bills season. Get to the defense core in just a minute here. But I know a lot of football on the brain for a lot of people, and the Sabres are jumping in on that as well. They announced that they're doing these, ticket packs for certain games where you get, a couple of different tickets and you get some other stuff on top of that. And the Sabres announced that for Bills night, that is pretty early on in the season, it's going to be October 28th against the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're going to have, for those that buy this ticket pack, one of the better giveaways that I can remember for the Sabres, because you often get like your $2 cheap sunglasses, or the gravy boats are always great. Now, that's a good one. This one, pretty good. The Sabres are giving away to those that buy this ticket pack a Bills-themed Sabres jersey. And I gotta say, it is as sharp as I could have imagined. It reminded me, if you Google this, if you don't have it off the top of your head, when the World Juniors came here in 2018 and they were going to be playing at Highmark Stadium, Team USA wore Bills jerseys, but they were like football jerseys, just with long sleeves. They had the numbers on the front, they had the numbers on the back, and I don't know, it looked very weird as a hockey jersey. And these, on the other hand, these are Bills themed, but they are still Sabre jerseys. If you're watching on the YouTube stream, I got the picture up. This is the official graphic the Sabres tweeted out. And it's that Sabres logo that they've used as an alternate logo on shoulders of alternates, or, in different promotional things in recent years, with the Buffalo and the word mark in the middle of the Buffalo. And I think that really worked for this. I think it really worked. It actually is almost kind of like, a very edited version of the Bills charging Buffalo, just instead of the stripe going through the Buffalo, you got the word mark, whatever. It's good. It's a sharp jersey. You got the stripes from it. And I think they nailed it. I wonder, though, if this is going to be like a full stitched jersey. I looked, it didn't say anything about that. If this will be I had one texter actually write in on our text club, like, that's a great giveaway until we show up and realize that it's a jersey t-shirt. And we'll see. I would give the Sabres more credit than that. They did do solid by the fans the other day. We talked about on this show that I thought it was pretty bad that they were going to be charging fans for switching nameplates from a Zach Benson jersey to a Josh Norris jersey if you had a number 9 Sabre uniform. The Sabres did a very good job of realizing that they were in the wrong there. They tweeted out, hey, we heard you. We made a mistake. We're going to do this on the house, and we're going to give you a percentage off of Benson jerseys. It's not perfect. I mean, this part I wouldn't criticize them for, but if you had a Benson jersey and he was your favorite player, like if I were a season ticket holder, that's my favorite player on the team right now, I would have a Benson jersey. And if he switched numbers, I would probably say, well, I don't really want a Josh Norris jersey. I want a Benson jersey. I don't want the nameplate change the number for me. And that's not what they're offering. They're offering to buy a new Benson jersey. But again, I'm not going to get that nitpicky. I think the Sabres did a good job by getting in and allowing fans the option for free to change that nameplate. So let's get into the Sabres blue line. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of today's show, as we are just a couple of weeks away from the start of the preseason. 12 questions that I'm going to be running through before the start of the year surrounding the Sabres. And today, the third of which is about the blue line. The Sabres blue line is really good, but the question is going to be, how good are they? How much can they carry this team? And is it good enough to get them to the playoffs? Well, let's start with why it is so critical that the Sabres blue line is the strength of this team and has I got to say, a dominant year. They have to have a dominant season, become that level of defense corps in the National Hockey League. And in part, it is because there are two things at works right now with the Buffalo Sabres. They are trying to be this defensive team that is tough to play against and doesn't give up a lot of chances. And they've been searching for that ever since they had their best team of the playoff drought, which always has been really weird to me, but that's the path they chose. And so far, not great. They have not become a dominant defensive team by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, they really haven't even been close to that. They have the talent to be that, but they have not been it. So in this search to be a great defensive team, obviously the first place you're going to look is your defensemen. How good are they at shutting plays down in their own end? How good are they at getting the puck out of their own end? And how good are they at stopping teams from coming in on the rush, breaking up chances that way, blocking shots? There's a lot that goes into that. And that's a lot more of the defensive-minded part of all of their games. I think Rasmus Dahlin has all of that down, and it's why I think he's one of the three best defensemen in the world. It's more than just his offensive game. I think he's got all of that. He can shut plays down. He gets the puck out of his own end. He's composed under pressure in his own zone. He's physical in front of his own net, or when guys are coming into the zone. Like, Dahlin's a guy where if you're a forward coming over across the middle of the ice, you better not have your head down, because he'll take your head off. Even though he's not, Dion Phaneuf or Scott Stevens, he's had a couple hits like that. He'll take your head off. So Dahlin's got that down. Power leaves you a little bit wanting. And then the rest of that is kind of up for interpretation, or I guess it's a kind of a wait and see approach. Other than Mattias Samuelsson, who I was hoping the Sabres were going to buy out this summer. And with that weird thing where Kevin Adams acted so offended that anybody could be suggesting that Samuelsson would be a buyout candidate, which I thought he absolutely should have been bought out. He does not do a lot of those defensive things. He's a good poke checker of the puck, but that's kind of it. He's a guy on the third pair, though, now. It's more important, what are the top four guys going to give you in that department? Michael Kesselring, kind of a concept right now, more than anything. And I like the concept. I like what he's supposed to be in theory, but he still has not done it at the NHL level over a big sample size. He's been the third pair defenseman for the Utah Hockey Club. Like, there's a step up coming for him, and I think it is coming, but we still are in a wait and see approach. Everything behind Dahlin in that category defensively is a question mark. Now, the other thing, though, that makes it so critical that their defense core is great this year, it's not just about what they're trying to be as a team, because what they're trying to be as a team is causing their forward group to suffer. They are nowhere near offensively where they were in the 22-23 season, where they could score with any team in the NHL, generating offense. And I got to be honest, last year, they were way better in that department than I thought they were going to be. Last year, that was my number one concern, that they weren't going to be able to score goals. They were able to score goals. But again, what have I had here? I've had more offense being taken off the roster in JJ Peterka and not replaced in the top six, other than if somebody internally is able to do that. So how does this relate to the defense core? Well, I think every great offensive player, even good offensive player, because when they took Middlestad off the team or Olofsson off the team, like those were great offensive player. Cousins being taken off the team, swapped in for Norris. These are good offensive players when they're playing well. Never great, never elite. That's Tage, right? That's Tuck. So every player they take off that's good offensively, and this year it was Peterka, I think the more that is on the plate of the blue line to generate offense on this team. And here's where I do have faith that their blue line is going to be one of the best in the league. Defensively, in their own end, all that stuff, like I'm not so sure. Byram's not so good at all that stuff. Samuelsson's not so good at all that stuff. Power has become better at it, but he's not all the way there yet. And Connor Timmins, like they just don't have a stable of guys like that. But generating offense, yeah, they do. They do. Power is fantastic. He's awesome at getting pucks up the ice, getting it where it's supposed to go, getting shooters in good spots. He's gotten a little bit better at creating his own offense. 5-on-5 points last year. He was in the top 10 in the NHL for defensemen. Power has given you that offense. And I think that part of his game is already there. Now, Byram gives you some offensively. He doesn't give you the numbers when he's not with Rasmus Dahlin. The one thing that I've always liked about Byram is the skating ability and the shot. His ability to jump up in a play and his ability to finish a chance when it is given to him. And, when Dahlin is out there with him, that's why it kind of works. He's getting more of those opportunities than if he were kind of having to drive his own pairing. So I'm getting that offense from Byram in his own way. I know Dahlin's giving it to me. Power is giving it to you and giving it to you on an elite level at times offensively. And even behind that, like Timmins kind of an offensive defenseman for a guy that's playing on the third pair. He might be big, but he's not overly physical at 6'3", and that is kind of the same as Michael Kesselring. Michael Kesselring at 6'5", 215, big frame, not a physical player. Not a physical player really at all. And he will give you some offense. He's got a 100-mile-per-hour slap shot, so you'll get a couple of goals here and there over the course of the year. I mean, last year, 7 goals in 82 games. Does not sound like a lot, I know. But playing 17 minutes and 41 seconds a night, if you play him 20 minutes a night and the goal scoring maintains at the same rate, you're talking about a defenseman that could give you double-digit goals. And I think that is in the realm of possibility for Michael Kesselring. So with all 6 of those guys together, if you want to throw Ryan Johnson's name in at the end, he's kind of this as well. They've got a defense core that should carry the offense. And that's good because I'm really worried the forwards aren't going to be able to do it. So there's a lot on the blue line's plate. I think that this increased or improved defensive unit that they're looking for as a team is very much on the blue line's plate, obviously. And I believe that creating the offense for this team to score enough goals is also as much on this blue line's plate as it is any blue line in the National Hockey League. Will they be able to stand up to that? I want to get to what Power's role in all this is, because I believe that if they're going to become a top 5, top 3 even, blue line in the NHL, it begins and ends with Owen Power. And then where they rank amongst defense cores in the NHL coming up here in the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Sabres is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season is here. We're 2 games in, and we got a million more coming tomorrow and Monday. And FanDuel's making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Maybe you are wanting to react to last night Kansas City losing and wanting to bet Denver to win the division. If you listen to me, you might already be in on that. Maybe you could even double down on that. So FanDuel futures are obviously available, but now we're into spreads, we're into over-unders, we're into prop bets, which are always a lot of fun. FanDuel. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app right now. Again, you get that offer, your first $5 bet. If you win, you get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. So again, download the FanDuel app now. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. It's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet today. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast on the Sabres blue line, which I don't even think there's a debate. I don't think anybody would argue it. It's the strength of this team. And 1 through 6, it's as good a unit as we've seen. Part of that, small part of that maybe, is they didn't trade Bowen Byram. And I still wish they did, but they didn't. And one thing that does give you is it makes you look like your defense core is a lot better on paper. In part because I don't have Mattias Samuelsson playing on the top pair, which I think would be a very bad place to start the season. I don't think he should be on the team at all, let alone be on the number 1 pair. But we'll go into the year and see if he's able to give them anything in a different role, maybe playing 15, 16 minutes per night. I'm very low on Samuelsson with this team going forward. It's kind of amazing to me they didn't buy him out. It was the perfect time. And now if they want to buy him out in the future because of the age he is, like that was a one-time offer to buy him out for that little $700,000, which is a rounding error on your salary cap. And yeah, it was a long time, 10 years, but a rounding error. What's the cap going to be in 10 years? $300 million to have him on your roster that whole time or on your books at a higher number because you wanted to wait a year to make this decision or 2 years to make this decision. It was just a total miss by Kevyn Adams and the Buffalo Sabres to not buy him out this summer. They should have admitted their own mistake. They signed him too early. And listen, that's one of the consequences. Some of those are success stories, Tage, but not all of them are going to be. And when you're wrong, you have to be willing to admit it and eat it. And they weren't. They were not willing to eat their mistake because here it is. Samuelsson's coming back for another season with the Buffalo Sabres. And I think it's a terrible decision by the team. So to the rest of the blue line, power is really where I wanted to spend this segment because power is the keys to the kingdom here with the defense core being a unit that could carry them to the playoffs. Power is where it's gotta happen. Dahlin is already a Norris level defenseman. Like to me, when he wins the Norris, it won't be because he elevated his game even further. Maybe he puts more points up. I guess I should be open to that possibility. Dahlin at this point, what's his career high? 76, 73. If he has a 95-point season, that'll look like an elevated game from Dahlin. But my opinion is that just whenever they make the playoffs is the year he's going to win the Norris. Power, there's another step there. And I think it got better over the course of last year. The holes in his game, defensively, physically, of course. I think this was part of the case. Lindy Ruff spoke to this last year. I reference it a lot. The man strength part, the quest for Owen Power to find his man strength. And that really is what I'm looking for. Strength, play strength from Owen Power. And I do think it's a very fair defense of him that a lot of guys at this age they're not built like that at 22 years old. But as you get to 23 and 24, 25, like that does start coming and it starts to look better and better every single year. I hope that was the case with Power. When we left last season, as the season was winding down, the two things that I said players needed to get, the two player improvements they needed the most was Zach Benson, skating and strength, his ability to score goals, big part of that. And number 2 was Power and him building up that strength, building up that frame. And the problem is that I don't know what his opportunity was to do that. And we might not get a good idea of that until they all show up at training camp. Power had that injury at the end of last season. Now, thankfully, he avoided having to have surgery, but it was expected to keep him out for 2 months, and that was back in April. So was it 2 months? Did it just hold him out through June, and he was back working out full go by July? Because if that's the case, then I got multiple months, hopefully, of Power being able to work in the gym and put on muscle, and I hope that's what he did. But again, it's hard to know when we don't really know how the injury recovery went. Maybe there was a setback. Maybe it took a little bit longer than they thought, and there wasn't as much time for him to put all that muscle on. So I don't know. We'll see. When he talks at training camp and he arrives and maybe there'll be a noticeable difference for him, we'll just see it. I'll be very curious to see when they arrive to training camp what Power's offseason was like, because I think him becoming a 6'6", he's already 6'6", but putting on that muscle and becoming more of a physically imposing player, not with hits, but just, when he's got the puck, you just can't take it off him. Or when you're going into the corners with him, he's just going to have an easy time pushing you off the puck. Those types of plays, those shutdown plays that you use your size with, that hasn't always been there with Power. And it's been understandable from me, but it's got to come eventually. And that to me is the step from him being what he is now to being, Victor Hedman someday. And I still believe that there is a Victor Hedman in there with Owen Power, but it's just going to come down to that type of stuff, to whether he ever finds it and whether we ever get it at the NHL level. So that's to me a big key. Power, some numbers on Power that I was looking at in prep for this show. Jay Fresh Hockey is a great account to follow on Twitter. And they had some numbers on Power and where he ranks across the NHL at his position. And in a lot of categories, like we're talking about an elite player. Offensive generation, passing is that, all the assist numbers, all in the 90th percentile or higher. Some of the other ones, like, zone exits, very good, 78th and 79th percentile. Exit success rate, 85th percentile. A lot of that is through carrying the puck. Carry exits out of his own end. How when you're carrying the puck out of your own zone, he's in the 93rd percentile. Interestingly to me, this surprised me. When he's passing it out of his own end, he's only in the 41st percentile, which is not as good, obviously. But everything looks really good. The couple of areas where he struggles are his shooting, which is not surprising. We've talked about that a lot, 38th percentile in shots. And then this is maybe part of the physicality part of it, entry denial rate. Guys are coming into the zone, and he's got to shut the play down. Entry denial rate, 6th percentile. Possession entry prevention, 2nd percentile. Entry chance prevention, 0th percentile. What would you even call that? Zero. It's got to be 0th, right? 0th percentile. Hits, 6th percentile. I'm not as big on that, but there are some of those shutdown numbers that he's got to get a lot better at. And I do think the strength part of it will always come off as, oh, well, that's how he gets better defensively. It also is a key with that shot. I think the stronger he gets, the more effective his shot will be. And for the amount of chances that he gets from his position, him having a big booming shot at 6'6", I don't know if it'll ever be, what Kesselring has at 100 miles per hour, but him having a big shot from the blue line is key to him being a fully formed offensive player. Dahlin didn't have it early on in his career, and he has it now. So there's hope for Power, I think. But he is the key. And I think there's a Norris nominee. I don't know if he's a player that'll ever win the Norris trophy. It might be hard for him when Dahlin's on the team, honestly, but he's a player that I could definitely see having a season where he's one of the candidates to win the Norris trophy. And this year, to summarize all of this with Power, the areas he's got to improve, the questionable offseason because of the injury, the age that he's at, the role he plays, what it all means. It's just so hard for me to see the Sabres ever making the playoffs without him taking a big leap forward. And it's not necessarily his fault, but part of it is he's one of the few players I see on the team that's capable of it. And that's why it's important. If there were 6 other guys on the team where I'm like, eventually this dude's going to take a big step forward and be an awesome player and like an elite level player, then I'd say, well, it doesn't matter as much that Power does it. But there aren't those guys. Benson, and some don't even agree with me on that. Benson, I think, is one guy that has that step in him. Kulik is a guy like that. And Power. That's it. he's like one of 3 guys, and again, even Kulik and Benson are maybe debatable. But that's part of why it's so important. And I don't think the Sabres can make the playoffs without him elevating his game to another level. So you want the drought to end. There's a lot on Power, I think, to help have that happen. Okay, when we come back, where this blue line's really good, very talented, especially if we're trying to get that across on the show. Where do they rank? Where do they rank league-wide? How many blue lines can you definitively say are better than the Sabres? It's not many. We'll go through that list when we come back here in the Locked On Sabres podcast. Welcome back. Third and final segment here on the Locked On Sabres podcast on the Sabres blue line. All think it's talented. I think it's very good. How good league-wide? How many teams can you definitively say are better than the Buffalo Sabres? I saw Travis Yost, TSN, one of the best hockey writers on the internet. And he had the Sabres in tier 2. He had them in tier 2 with Florida, Toronto, Vancouver, Vegas, Winnipeg, and Washington. And I'm looking at these lists. I looked at a couple other ranking lists like this. Offseason hockey's got a bunch of that kind of stuff. And I'm looking at the teams that are often ranked above the Sabres. And who are those teams? And let's go by them one by one, because I think it's hard to not put the Sabres in the top 5 in terms of defense cores in the NHL. I think they're a top 5 blue line. And to put where in the top 5 is interesting too, but the teams often ranked ahead of them, Colorado. And that to me, like, I'm not going to dispute that at all. Colorado's got the best defenseman in the world, and they've got in Kel McCarr. They have other very good defensemen as well. I mean, if you look at right on the top pair with Devin Tays playing with them, I think Sam Girard is a very good defenseman. They have Josh Manson as well. They just had Brent Burns in the third pair. I don't care as much about that, but it's mostly a McCarr thing, and then a couple of other really good defensemen too. Not going to argue Colorado. They're better. Carolina, often ranked higher. Same thing. Wouldn't really dispute that. It's a lot of Jacob Slavin for me being one of the most underappreciated defensemen in the league. They have the depth on their defense core. They added Keandre Miller in the offseason. Carolina's kind of always has had 6 good defensemen, and I still feel that that's the case, and they still have one of the best defensive defensemen in the world at the top of it. So not going to dispute Carolina. Any other team behind that? I think it's debatable, personally, that the Sabres are the 3rd best defense core in the NHL. Now, there's one that I always see ranked ahead of them, and that's Dallas. And Dallas features Miro Heiskanen and Thomas Harley, which is as good a 1-2 punch as you'll find. Really, I think it's debatable with Dallas, because I think once you get down to Ilya Lyubushkin and then the third pair guys, and this would be true of Samuelsson, I guess, in the third pair too, the depth falls off, and that's most blue lines. Esa Lindell up high. I guess it comes down to, Dahlin versus Heiskanen, Harley versus Power. And I'd give a slight edge to Dallas, because I think Dahlin's a little bit better than Heiskanen, but Harley's better than Power. And I don't think that's really debatable right now. Harley's an amazing defenseman in the NHL. He's one of the most underappreciated defensemen in the league. And because of him, I would put Dallas above them. I'd put the Sabres personally 4th. Now, 2 other teams that Travis put above the Sabres, Edmonton and Ottawa. And those are good defense cores. Edmonton, does that kind of catch you off guard? Because Edmonton's kind of has this reputation of it's just McDavid and Draisaitl carrying the show. The goaltending's always been bad. I mean, it's not a bad blue line. Mattias Ekholm, Evan Bouchard up top. Travis wrote a lot about Jake Wallman, who was a deadline acquisition for them, being a big reason why he had them ranked as high. But I wouldn't put Edmonton that high, personally. So I think the Sabres are better than the Oilers. And the other team he had above them was Ottawa. And Ottawa, with Jake Sanderson, Thomas Chabot, Nick Jensen, Jordan Spence they added in the offseason. Fine, good blue line. But I got Dahlin over Sanderson. I got Chabot and Power on similar playing fields, and I got both Byram and Kesselring being better than Artem Zub and Nick Jensen. So I got Sabres over Senators, and then there's nobody else I'd really want to elevate over the Sabres. I mean, Florida's got some guys, right? And they got guys at every position. But I don't think they have a Dahlin. I don't think they have a Dahlin. I think they're a good 1-6 defense core that is missing the superstar defenseman. To, be fair, they don't really need it because they have amazing players everywhere. They get away with it. Toronto, no. Vancouver, no. Vegas, no. Like, I think the Sabres are the fourth best defense core in the NHL. Going into this year, I'd say they're the fourth best defense group in the league. And should being top 5 at one unit be enough to get you to the playoffs? It could be. That might just come down to whether they're healthy, right? If they're healthy and you don't have to throw Samuelsson into the top 4 or Timmins into the top 4 or, start playing replacement level defensemen, then I think that's going to be a big key to the Sabres being in a playoff race. But if they start running into problems injury-wise, I think the depth could get tested quick. And as most teams, but I think that would become a problem. And more so for the Sabres because they don't have, I think, forwards and defense and goaltender that can make up for it if they are struggling on the blue line. All right, that's going to do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Enjoy the Bills game. Enjoy football getting rolling. And keep in mind that we're only a couple weeks away from hockey season as well. There are hockey games this month at KeyBank Center. Only a couple weeks away. Can't wait. And we'll keep rolling through the biggest questions of the Sabres going into the regular season. If you've got a nominee that you think I should touch on before the start of the year, feel free to let us know what you think at our text club. Join subtext.com/LockedOnSabres is where you can sign up for that. More hockey talk available at Locked On NHL. They're available wherever you find your podcasts, on YouTube as well. All the offseason topics, all the local coverage from the best of Locked On Locked On NHL. We'll talk to you on Tuesday here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.